Welcome back to Afterlife Topics. This is your host, Cyrus, coming at you live this time from Jakarta, Indonesia, where I have relocated from the Philippines, have stable internet again, thank God. I can get some more videos out to you guys, hopefully. Tonight, we're talking about how there has been a disturbance in the force, something that has been manipulating our societies, our democracies, and stoking fires of hatred and destruction, and this is likely bent for its own ends. So I'm going to discuss that concept a little bit coming up. Before we begin, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, I'd ask you to please help out by doing that. You may have to be signed into your Gmail account to be logged into YouTube to see the big red subscribe button. While you're there, you can hit the notification bell, share the video, like the video, all that stuff helps support a channel that is fighting an uphill battle against a platform called YouTube that doesn't really like spiritual, meta, and alternative channels. And they do not like seeing those channels succeed. They will not recommend the videos as much as other subjects, so it's a bit tough. Okay, so on the screen you will see Emperor Palpatine. Now I haven't seen the Star Wars prequels in a long time, and if you don't know much about Star Wars, kind of here's what I can remember about Emperor Palpatine. So Palpatine was, of course, the nemesis of the Star Wars universe, and he, let's see, I'm trying to remember who was the actor's name. I thought I had him up, like Ian McDiarmid, I think was the name of the actor, the great Ian McDiarmid. And Palpatine basically was a politician for the Republic, but he was secretly playing multiple sides against each other and doing this to fit the purposes of a grand agenda, which was to bring the Sith Empire back to the universe. The previous video I spoke about the ego. The Sith Empire is basically people that are bent heavily on the left-hand spectrum too much until you lose all the balance, and you end up attempting to well, kind of becoming this cancerous force that just wants to eat and devour and conquer. And I mean, we see this in people's personalities. We see it throughout history, whatever. So I mean, Star Wars would be basically a big allegory toward these concepts. You know, a lot of spiritual principles, a lot about the hero's journey. All this stuff is kind of wrapped up into Star Wars. One of the reasons that the franchise was so successful. So here we have Emperor Palpatine as the politician, and then his real form as the evil emperor that we remember from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, who was the mentor of Darth Vader. So why do I bring this up? Because what I'm seeing happening right now is something very similar to Star Wars. There is a Sith among us, or possibly Siths, or some entity, some force that is stoking the fires of hatred and division. And it's, I believe at this point, more than just, shall we say, human nature. There has been a manipulation attempt. Maybe it has been going on for a long time, and maybe now they're cornered. I know some channelers are saying this, that these forces are kind of doing a Hail Mary passes right now at this point, doing things they wouldn't do before, final attempts to exert control. That's a nice narrative because it means that we're winning. But in reality, I don't know if we know for sure what the real narrative is. But yeah, Ian McDiarmid, that's his name. But we're seeing this happen, and allow me to present what I mean. Do you guys remember this from this week, which was the MAGA hat kid? So the MAGA hat kid blew up on CNN because he was allegedly, him and his gang surrounded this Native American guy and began intimidating him by smirking at him, and the Native American guy just stood his ground. And they were Trump-supporting racists. So this is what was on CNN. Well, it turns out the whole story was a lie. It was a tiny piece of a much longer clip where these kids were dealing with a actual racist group known as the Black Hebrew Israelites. The Native American guy came in to defuse the situation, and the MAGA hat kid's smirk turns out was more like an authentic smile, because the Indian guy was beating his drums and pacifying the situation. It turned out, I believe yesterday, that the person who broke the story was a Twitter account out of Brazil, claiming to be like some doctor. I don't remember all the details. I heard this on the Tim Pool channel. He's a journalist, and his stuff is spot on the money usually. And CNN had found this tweet, and then they ran with that, creating the story. Well, it turns out that this Twitter account was highly suspicious. It was posting about 130 times a day, had like 40,000 followers, and the real origins were unknown. So it wasn't this Brazilian person at all. It turned out it was a fake identity, and nobody knows the group responsible who had created that account. Twitter responded, I believe, by banning the account, realizing that this whole MAGA cat thing was a psychological operation. And so Twitter got rid of the account, and Twitter is a left-wing organization, but they saw through the partisan politics and did the right thing. As we speak, there's people still calling for the death of this 16-year-old guy wearing the MAGA hat. They are calling for the destruction of his life, destruction of his livelihood, the ruining of his life. And they're doing it with glee. And I have discovered on my Facebook page there are people thinking along these lines. And I hate to say it, maybe I am part of the division, but I've realized that I don't want to be affiliated with anybody who is advocating for that, if not failing to denounce it. I've had some friends on this spectrum of zealotry who refuse to acknowledge that not only did the kids technically not do anything wrong at all besides wearing a MAGA hat, they should not be given death threats. Their lives should not be ruined over nothing. A psychological operation by some dark force. You get what you get what I mean. Some force that is manipulating us. So there's people still advocating, calling for the MAGA hat kid's death. And if not doing that, not denouncing the people who are. Which is also pretty bad, to sidestep the conversation. When I ask directly, do you support the death threats against this kid? And then they skirt around the answer because they don't want to denounce it, because they don't want to break party lines of this new movement. And so maybe I'm part of the division, but I've realized I don't want to be affiliated with anybody who thinks this way. As an example, I would not want to bring somebody who thinks this way to my non-existent children's birthday party, because to me they are like a loose cannon. They're being manipulated by the media and being pushed into really dark places. I don't know what they're capable of. I don't know if they're gonna blow up, freak out. And in my opinion, the people who are this far gone into this manipulation are too unstable of people for me to even want to be around. And there's been some friend deletions happening this week, not even by me, but just from the people who are so brainwashed by this incident that they've seen my posts on my personal Facebook feed defending this kid, defending, saying, we should not be advocating to literally like kill a kid because of something that turned out wasn't even real. And people have been offended by this. And almost as bad are people coming in and challenging me, saying, how dare you support Trump? Which is, of course, nonsensical, because I'm coming at this from a bipartisan perspective. I am a centrist independent who leans left. But what's going on here is this great dark manipulation that's happening. And a minority of people are so caught up by it that it's like they've lost rational thought. They've now indulged in all these base instincts of like anger, fear, malice, and they're doing it because it's wrapped up in this visage of justice. So they think that they're supporting justice, but really what they're doing is becoming the things that they hate, which is also how Emperor Palpatine worked, right? So the people who created the Empire in Star Wars, I mean, they thought that they were getting rid of the injustices of the Republic. And by creating a galactic empire, it would unite everybody together. Now, the funny thing is that galactic empire in the Star Wars mythos possibly did accomplish that to an extent. So the idea is that Palpatine was using the egoic forces, the pure egoic forces, and attempting to use that for a greater good by, like, let's say, stopping all the galactic wars, bringing everybody together under authoritarianism, and destroying people's freedoms, but replacing it with, like, stability in the universe. And, you know, to some extent, like, if you compare the Galactic Empire to the real-world equivalents, like the Soviet Union, well, the Galactic Empire is pretty bad. They were committing mass genocide by destroying planets. If we can look past that bit, you could almost argue that like the Soviet Union was worse than the Galactic Empire because of their just mass policies of genocide against their own people, sending anybody who had the wrong ideas into gulags, and then also wiping out their families for being affiliated. So this was this really dark impulse that was activated in a whole civilization with the Soviet Union. You can read into the history of it, and it's terrifying what would happen in the Soviet Union. You would have basically wealthy farmers branded as the enemy, and so the poorer farmers were encouraged to rise up and kill the wealthy farmers and seize their crops because they were considered what bourgeoisie or the class that was oppressing everybody else because they were more wealthy in a capitalistic society. And this resulted in mass famine that killed millions of people because these poor, vengeful farmers who were stoked with hatred believed that the source of their problems in life were these wealthier farmers. And so when they took over the farms that belonged to the wealthy farmers, killed the people living in those farms, murdered their families, or had the government send them to gulags where they died in Siberia, they didn't know how to farm as efficiently because that's why they were the poorer farmers, because they didn't know how to do their job as well. And so this caused mass starvation and millions of people died. But the powers that be didn't care because they were happy with a smaller, more controllable population so long as all the males were able to serve in the military. That's some pretty evil shit. Like, that makes the Galactic Empire look like a peacekeeping force, which, you know, in some ways maybe it was. You know, we don't know all the Star Wars mythos, but it is funny when you go into all that. Galactic Empire pretty bad, based off the Nazis. But hell, I mean, even the Nazis possibly worse than the Sith, the way that, you know, the things they were doing. The Galactic Empire, yeah, they blew up a planet and killed billions of people. But still, I mean, the real-world equivalents, comparable, probably a lot worse. In terms of, like, I'm sure the Nazis and the Soviet Union would happily blow up planets if this was, like, that level civilization. It's just that they were confined to their, you know, to this planet, their countries. Again, imagine if the Nazi Empire or the Soviet Union was on a galactic level. It'd be this guy, Emperor Palpatine, who would be coming in and saving everybody's butt from those guys, because the hateful Sith Lord is probably way more like I don't know, like balanced in his intentions than some of the stuff that our world is dreamt up of. The point I'm making is that like real life is even worse than fiction. So back to the MAGA hat kid stuff. So what we've seen is some force is manipulating us, and it's stepping it up, and we're seeing that we're close to like a civil war in the USA. And this is a time to be extremely spiritually vigilant. And if you are somebody who believes like this kid needs to be, destroyed, you refuse to look at the evidence to the contrary about what really happened, then, well, okay, look, I don't want you in my life. I don't want you in my friends page. I don't want you on this channel. I don't want you in the group because you're a very hateful person who has lost some of your reasonability. On the other hand, if you recognize this and you want to get over that hatred and bring light and love and positivity back into your life, then I'm happy to talk to you all day about that. I'll be your unlicensed therapist to help you get over that prejudice. And yes, I do recognize that, whatever is stoking these flames is operating on both sides. So you have some right-wing lunatics as well. But it doesn't matter. The point is that we need to see that there's a power in play, collectively trying to destroy us, trying to bring back some evil empire, or God knows what, whatever Sith Lord, whoever it is, whatever it is planning. God knows exactly what the end game is. But it's something that we have to spiritually resist that, and it begins in our own hearts. So if our own hearts are not built in such a way as to create division and hatred, or to have this, let's say they used the Soviet Union example, the belief that somebody else is responsible for all your problems, even if it's an irrational belief. So with the rich farmers, to use that as an analogy, the people who killed the farmers, they had a resentment and a jealousy. They had this lower level drive, this very dark baseline, primitive emotion of jealousy, competition, and feelings of inadequacy. So once a government came along to stoke those feelings, then they had no problems saying, oh, now we have permission to go murder our neighbors. It's the same thing, folks. So this is a time of self-responsibility and looking beyond the idea that somebody is a victim, even if you are a victim, right? So let's say, what's the good example? I'm in Southeast Asia, and the fact is people with darker skin are victims of colorism. You're considered lower class if your skin is dark. You're at a disadvantage in society. It's a real one, too. And if that is the case, then it really sucks. But still, if you spend all your life festering on how you hate people with light-colored skin, you're not going to succeed that way. Unless a government comes along and says it's time to kill the white-skinned people. And all you're doing is locking yourself away to slavery at the hands of these entities if you do that. So whatever your situation in life may be, if you think the solution is to blame and attack some nondescript entities, a race, a class, a political persuasion, a group of people who wear a hat, then this is dangerous territory. And if you've taken it to such an extreme level that you now are on the edge of being one of those poor farmers who would rise up and start murdering people, then I don't want anything to do with you. Unsubscribe from this channel. Leave the Afterlife Topics group, and if you're on my friends page, defriend me. And I'm not doing it because I dislike you or I hate you. I'm doing it because I don't want to be associated in case this spreads out into something where people start getting killed. Like, I don't want to be, when the smoke clears and people are going to prison, it's like, I don't want to be associated. When it's like, hey, you were friends with this person who killed a bunch of MAGA hat wearing teenagers, right? Like, I don't know how bad this is going to get. And I just, at this point, think it's better not to be associated. And I frankly think that people need to be aware of this and also be reaching out to the people at the same time who are going this extreme and letting them know that, look, I can't be spatially associated with you, but if you are ready to release some of this anger and hatred and be, act in a civilized manner, then I'm here and ready to invite you back in and talk to you, and we can work through this. And it doesn't have to do with political ideologies. This is right wing and left wing can work together on this. Well, for whoever watches these videos, and there's a couple hundred people out there who watch this, that's my feeling about this. I'd say share this if you want to spread this message around a little bit. And of course, normally in this channel we talk about life after death. I avoid politics, but this is no longer about politics, guys. This stuff is getting serious, and it's spread beyond politics. Like, I'm glad I left the USA because I don't know. I think we're in big trouble, and whoever the Sith Lord is, and if Star Wars is any kind of a source of wisdom, it's probably not who we'd expect. But whoever it is, it's put us into a very dangerous situation. All right. Check out afterlifetopics.com if you want to get involved more. I'll talk to you guys next time.